When I was 5 years old, the Batman movie came out back in 1989. And that was the first time that I ever knew about superhero movies. It was a moment in my life where I never knew about the process of superhero movies. But it wasn't until later that the movie Batman Returns brought me in. And I've told people many times this before. Uh, when it came to that movie, I never knew about superhero movies' existence. So it wasn't until years later, after I saw that movie, that I found out that back in 1978, Richard Donner had created a film that, honestly, I'm surprised people don't consider it a blockbuster movie because it's very iconic that led to the establishment of superhero movies. Many people don't realize that. And that was the Superman film, the very first Superman film. The cheesiness, the aesthetic of it was my introduction to Superman. I never knew about him in comic book format or anything when it came to the uh, the character. Never even knew that he and uh, Batman were even in the same characters in the sense of it. Never even knew. It wasn't until I believe back in 96, 97, I found the issue of Superman 24 from 1988. It was Rampage Power Round 2. And I believe in that book was my first knowing about the fact of Superman in that book. That was the first Superman comic I ever picked up. And then years later, I found out about the death of Superman. And I didn't understand the fact of what made that a big cultural situation. Because when it came to Superman, I never knew how much of an impact that was to American society from media. My cousin, shout out to my cousin, Terrence Brown, who gave me the true proper introduction of comic books. I'm not going to send hate to my father's way, but he was never one to give me the proper introduction of the value of comic books. It wasn't until my cousin that pulled me and my brother into that introduction. One year, we went over his house. He was living in a very shanty of a house, and he lived there, and he was living by himself. It was a one-story house. It was in the middle of a boony area. It wasn't really in good condition. He was getting some renovations done to it, in fact, if I'm correct. And in his bedroom, he didn't sleep out in his bedroom. He had a bedroom, but he never slept in it because he was still getting work done with it. But in that room, he had shelves. In the middle of the room, he had shelves and shelves of comic books. Those would be my introductions to comic books. Everything from X-Men to beyond. Um, Around that same time of it, around that same yearly situations when I found out about the death of Superman, I saw this book, the plastic insert, the plastic wrapping, which showed a bloodied version of the Superman S on the cover and nothing else. And it shocked me. And then there was a white one, and inside it, a picture of Superman in a translucent front cover hologram with Jonathan Kent, Pa Kent's hand extending out as if he was trying to reach for his son. And I got invested in the character. My introduction to Superman wasn't like Batman. It was a character, a comic book character that I felt, was interesting and likable to read. But I never really invested in him like I did with Batman. I didn't set myself to the point where I was like, basically, hey, I love Batman. Like, okay, this is my favorite character. Not like it did with that. The Donner movies were good for what they were, but they were anything that I said I would watch over and over again. The only time a Superman movie did that for me at that moment was actually Man of Steel. I'm going to be honest. I had already heard from so many people about what Superman Returns did, and after I watched even half of it, I couldn't finish watching it. Zack Snyder changed that with Henry Cavill, and his Justice and his Superman film. It was a Superman movie that was likable, and I will still hold that to the extent of it. I own the movie. I still think it's a great piece of work. But am I going to go Snyderverse all in the sense of saying it's the best Superman movie of all time? No. There will still be people who will still tie to the Donner movies being the best Superman movies of all time, and they are rightly deserved to be considered. But at the time, even at this time, even after Man of Steel, even after the situation with the Snyderverse coming and going for what it was, I never really said to myself I had a favorite Superman movie. Now, I don't want to repetitive of myself because many of you have followed me on my social media have made it very well established that I have said over and over for the last 20 something years, I am not a Superman fan. If it came to my favorite DC hero, it is, will be, and forever will be Batman. That will be my favorite superhero of DC Comics of all time. And still to the test of time, it will be. I will still hold that value to my chest. Everything that deals with the Dark Knight in Gotham City is what I love. My comics collection shows that. My merch that I own shows that. The posters, the pictures, the drawings from comic books, the t shirts, everything that I own that shows and encapsulates that shows in my love of Batman. But there are reasons why I still have some interest and likability for Superman. And it's mostly because of the pairing. And that is what I saw in the issue 24 of the Rampage issue of Superman for round two of Rampage. The first page, if I'm correct in that book, you see Batman in the shadows, I believe. No, I take that back. I take that back. It's the issue with the Silver Banshee. Rampage is the first book that I found out. I first find out about, but it is an issue of Superman where the Silver Banshee. My first introduction of the Silver Banshee in Superman was my first introduction of finding out that both Batman and Superman were canon to each other. And that alone gave me the interest to say I'm intrigued of his relationship with Batman. And over the years, it is still to this day, I consider both their pairing to be my favorite pairing in team up superhero stuff of all time. Now, but again, I still don't consider myself a super fan of Superman. I own a shirt of Superboy, of the Connor Kent Black, White, Red, and Superman. In fact, I wore that shirt with my brother when we went to see Man of Steel when it first premiered on opening night. But again, I didn't see myself as a Superman fan. And to this day, I still kind of don't. But by the time that you're watching this, I'm filming and recording this the night that I went to go see James Gunn's Superman that came out this year in 2025. And I can honestly, strikingly tell you that with every sincerity and without hesitation, this is without a doubt my favorite Superman movie of all time. My personal favorite Superman movie of all time. I will honestly tell you that. Again, Man of Steel was awesome. It was amazing for what it was. I still consider it an awesome movie. It's still watchable to sometimes, regardless. But this movie with James Gunn's Superman is without a doubt my favorite superhero movie of all time. And with that being, and that says a lot, because this movie has made me so much intrigued on the fact of how much I love comic books, how much I'm adored of comic books. And I have to be honest with you, when it comes to this character. Uh, with it comes to this version, this variation, and I'm hoping by the time that this episode is up, many people will already see it, and that is, uh, without a doubt, uh, this may be the movie that best defines Superman ever. I honestly will say that without any hesitation. I'm trying to put the poster up in here because this is the latest poster that has been released of the movie that's out. So, I'm going to try my best not to express spoilers in a sense for this movie, but fair warning, unless you have seen this movie, there will be some things you will not understand to the angle in this movie. So keep that in mind. Um, First, for starters, when it was announced that James Gunn was going to make this DC universe and be revitalizing it into DC Studios, without any hesitation, I knew this man was going to do the work. I have praised and told people that James Gunn's work speaks for itself on how good he can do. Because people forget James Gunn is a nerd. James is a nerd. The best example I can give to people is my introduction to James Gunn. And it wasn't with everyone else seeing his internship work with Lloyd Kaufman in Trauma. It wasn't the movie Slither he had some value in. Hell, I can't even tell you it's Guardians of the Galaxy for what he did with that. It was actually a little game called Lollipop Chainsaw, which he did writing for. That game with Suda 51 was my introduction to James Gunn. I never knew who the name James Gunn was until that game came out. And funny enough, that game would also connect to my future because of the fact that who would ever thought years later a cosplay contest that IGN would do for the promotion of that game would launch the career of one of the most recognized cosplayers of all time. Hi, Jessica Negri, if you're watching this. But my knowledge on the sense of when it comes to James Gunn was my knowledge of knowing of how he could do with this movie. Snyder's movie has an edginess to his Superman, which was necessary at some point of it because it was something different. And that's what I thought it did well with. It did its part to show the edginess of Superman. An edginess of Superman we never really saw in most cases when it comes to superhero movies. We never really saw that. And when it came to that movie, that's why I still will hold that movie still close to awesomeness of it, was because of the fact that we didn't see that in Superman at all. Because the first thing people are like, oh, he's going to just pretty much encapsulate what Reeves has done over the years, what Christopher Reeve has done with the character performance of it for years. And it showed it wasn't going to happen that way. And that's what I loved about Zack Snyder. He made the characters, I think somebody said it, or it was in the movie itself, but the fact that it brought a god-like perspective of these characters in their visual abilities. And that is, again, something, a fish out of water that I still will consider what makes that movie good and that universe good. But when I tell you that what James did with this movie for Superman, it brought the complexity of the character back to its roots. And I know some people will find it weird that I say this as someone who's really not a big Superman fan, but let me tell you why. I have heard the best description from many people who have stated after seeing this movie, the fact of Superman, and this is the best description that I've heard from people since going to see this movie. If you took a Bruce Timm Superman animated series episode and brought it to life, it would be this movie. And that is the best description I can ever give you for this movie. It is absolutely on the mark. This is a movie that I honestly could see done into an animated film if James had did this instead. And that's the best way of describing it. Now, there have been some places like NPR and a few other, like, I don't know if New York Post or such, who have stated that the cheesiness is too much of it, but it still works. That might be true, but it's not of a cringe level cheesiness. We forget characters like this one has not had a moment where they show their their humanoid complex of things, the humanity of it, the coreness of it. Strip away all the godlike sense of it, the mythicology of it. Hell, take away even the origin story and get straight to the story on the character of this character and what they have to encapsulate and what they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis in the real world of things. This is a man who was raised on Earth who didn't understand at one point except the fact of what his parents, through a message they left him when he was a child, that what he felt that was his necessary compassion thing to do. Now, in the Batman movie, it was already intended to know that Patterson's Batman was a Batman still just becoming Batman. There was no origin story needed, but it was more in the sense of, I'm still working out the kinks on how to be the protector for Gotham City in doing what I do. But I'm already making a name for myself. To be funny enough, it parallels with this. Now, I know James has stated over and over, and many people have already know, Patterson's and Matt Reeves' Batman will not be canon to James's DC Studios universe. It has already been established of that. However, it seamlessly could fit with this if necessary. Funny enough, the actor who plays our Man of Steel, James Cornsweet, even stated in an interview at one point he would love to see Superman in a dark, complex of situation in a detective noir type of film. And Matt Reeves, I hope, was watching when he said that, because that completely fits the universe of the Batman. So hopefully the seeds are planted in that sense of it, but as of right now, we're probably going to be looking at it from a different angle of another person portraying Batman. I mean, there are many people who are throwing their hat in there. Even wrestler Randy Orton wants to take on the Cape and Cowl, which would be a very interesting fit. I just don't want Batman to hear voices. In any case, back to this movie. The fact that people have stated that this is like a Superman animated series episode, I hope James Gunn and I hope Bruce Timm have talked when it came to this movie. I hope Bruce Timm went to see this movie, because Bruce, if you ever see this video, I'm gonna tell you right now, James has done you proud with this. It shows, because like most of us, he grew up with this cartoon, no different than we have, and I think it shows in this movie. He made sure on that. Now, of course, there are Donner-esque elements into it. The main theme of the score of the film, of course, has somewhat still elements. Hell, even the title credits have some element. Title and ending credits have that elements of Donner-esque into it. Hell, this poster that you see on your screen, if you're watching the video version of this episode, has Donner-esque into it, because obviously James has stated Donner's movie was truly an inspiration for him growing up, watching it, the character. But he did it in a way that it wasn't too Donner-esque. That's what I liked about this too. We're not trying to see Donner redefine in this movie, and I'm glad he pulled back a little bit. In the sense of the complexity of this movie, that most of the characters in this movie just shows something as simple about it. Like, the first picture that we see is Cornsweet's Superman adjusting his costume while a alien entity is outside of his flat, being attacking the city, which that goes back to in this movie in actuality. So most of the stuff that is used in the promotion of this stuff attaches to itself very well in this movie, which is funny. Again, it's hard for me to try to express this because by the time this episode goes up, I'm hoping the embargo has been lifted, that we can let everything out to talk about. Like hell, Cheo Hideaki Choker, who is the executive producer and showrunner for Marvel's Luke Cage, could not talk much about this movie as much as he could because he's waiting for when the embargo is lifted. I know there's a lot of YouTubers out there right now who are movie reviewers who are waiting for the embargo to lift because of it. So I don't know. So I'm trying to do this. So I apologize if I'm not too expressive of this because of the fact of embargo reasons. Let me go on record also in the sense of when it comes to this movie, this edginess that you saw in Man of Steel is very contradiction of what this is, but it's for good reason. I've always remembered when it comes to Superman, it's always been that light and shining situation. It's what made me not like Superman much as a fan, to be honest. The one thing I didn't like about the character growing up was the complexity of our society in this country, this specific country, embodying of what Superman is. Superman being the representation of this country. It was the one thing I did not like about the character. I hated every time I saw Superman used as a symbolism for this country. And it's not saying that I'm an enemy of this country. It is not me saying that I don't like this country. I don't like the fact that this country tries to use itself as a pristine, clean sense of it. When you think of when the years came by, and there was always like facial description analogies used for the countries in a sense of it. The one that I always remember America always had to be was a giant, muscle-bound, chiseled guy with a chiseled jaw, straight, shiny, perfect teeth, blue eyes, blonde hair. The embodiment of perfection. Like he was a perfect specimen. Superman was the closest of that encapsulation that I see a lot of politicians, officials in government, even some of those people out there in this country who put that symbolism on him. And it made me more retorted because I said to myself, not everybody looks like him. You look at most of the people who were lived, born, and raised in this country or who came to this country don't look like Superman. They don't. And that's what made me not like Superman personally. That was one of the causes. It wasn't the fact that he was always a do-gooder. It wasn't the fact of he was always, at the time, seen as perfection or embodiment of immortality. No, it was the fact of his embodiment to this country as somebody of American stature. I hated it. Because in my head, I said to myself, he's not even human, let alone American. And lo and behold, James Gunn took that element and encapsulated it in this movie in the brightest way possible. And you know who hates this the most? Those same people who once for years put Superman on that pedestal as the embodiment symbolism of American perfection. Fox News shredded this movie, calling it super woke. Many politicians have outwardly spoken, saying that this movie is terrible. The moment James Gunn said in an interview that Superman is an immigrant, people were disgusted. And I said, this was something I wanted people to say for years. I've waited 20 years, 20 to 30 years for somebody to finally say it. And James Gunn has been the one to say it in the script for this movie. Now, the variation of what Superman is within this movie, and not to take away with the other versions, what James defines with the character in this movie and what he goes through is actually what America is about. A person from another country, or from another world, or even another country, who comes to this country looking for the same things that we are, envisions what we see in our society, and does what it can to make itself, to make this country for the greater good of what it is. We have always said for years, and I hate to be political here, we have said for years that the backbone of this country isn't the people the normal Caucasian people of this America who settled here from other country, uh, who settled in this world to make this world a country of what it is. It's the people who were brought here on their own, not from their own free will. And I am not even talking about my American slave descendants. I'm also talking about the Hispanics, the Asians, the many others that makes this melting pot of this country. And they all are for the same objective, for their own slice of pie in this country and be proud of what it is. And we've lost that way. We've lost it since our current tyrant of a president is running this country, trying to make it great again when it was already great to begin with. It's not meant to be perfect. If God had made us, if God or whoever made us meant to be perfect, this would be chaotic. It would be chaotic. That perfection has always been established in our society by American politics as well as people in this country who believe they are the natural Americans that they are, who were born and raised here, doesn't speak another language, wears the red, white, and blue 100% of the time. The same ones who voted for that tyrant that's in office as of right now. Not realizing that it's the people who work for those people, the foreigners that they would like to call them, are the true Americans. And Superman, in this embodiment, from what James has done with him, shows the true Americanism of patriotism, what who he is. Which is why it's absolutely ludicrous that someone like Dean Cain from Lois and Clark's Adventures of Superman feels that this is not the right representation. That's why I don't respect his Superman, but I don't need to go on that. I've already established it on a TikTok if you've seen it. I don't need to, because I'm here to be optimistic. And with optimism and the brightness of things, this movie does it the best way possible. But again, the moment that I knew that James stated that Superman is an immigrant, and he said it on television, I knew, one, most of the woke, the anti-woke minds in this country are going to be pissed. And on the other end, the people who have been fans of this character, who knew of this character, who knew this character from the beginning, even people who are not fans like myself, but knew the groundings of what this character is truly about, were going to be happy. And that's exactly what happened. So James did brilliant with the story on Sense of It with this character. Many of y'all know, I mentioned this before, y'all many of probably saw this already on social media, but I got to meet Panda Red this year at Colossicon. And I had told him his representation of what he said about what Superman is the best thing ever. He's just a dude. He's just a guy. You take away his powers, you take away his ability, his for himself, he's a guy. A man who's trying to do what he believes is what is the right thing to do, what he felt his intention to do from the moment that his message from his parents was bestowed upon him. He felt that was his true intention. And I could not be more happy on that. Now, again, as I stated before, does this make me a Superman fan? No. But it gives me a lot of respect for the character with this representation. I could not be more happy of the best representation of this character since Reeve. Since both Reeves. Not just Christopher, but George as well. I think Corn Sweet did an amazing job showing that vulnerability of, I'm trying to do the best that I can, regardless of what I have to deal with, regardless of how people feel about me, who like me or hate me. I'm doing what's noble, what's right, what in my heart is the right thing to do. Even if I get so much hate for it. Because there is moments in this movie, from that first trailer teaser, he is not liked. And he has to deal with that. We've already established, or we've already known and established, the fact of Superman, like the Matt Reeves' Batman, James Gunn stated himself, like, we're cutting the bullshit of origin. You know the character. You know what he's like when you first see him. You know what his abilities are. It is a common known fact. Everyone in this country and all around the world knows who he is, what his abilities are, what he encapsulates, where he came from, his planet. So there's no need to readdress it. You know it. We're going to cut that clear out. And I think that was the best decision that James did. Right next to Matt Reeves for Batman. Right next to it. Best decision. I will even double on the fact, like Reeves to some extent, that he even cut out the fact of Warner Brothers. Now, we all know Warner is responsible for this film. We all know this. Warner Brothers is footing the bill since they own DC, of course. But James wanted to make it clear this is a DC project. So the first thing you see is the DC Studios logo with the 1940s Superman breaking chains for the opening. And I'm so glad he did that too, because it takes away the conglomeration of what Warner Brothers is and focuses on the fact that this is a movie from DC Studios. He's doing exactly the same, and it's obvious that he was going to do it because, of course, the fact that he had to see that same establishment with Marvel. Because when you look at Marvel, before they became the indie company that they were, before Disney was part of them, you expect either the Disney logo or the company that Buena Vista companies no longer sense of it. But no, you see Marvel Studios, and that's it. James is starting to put that in the sense for DC Studios, and that's a good thing. Because at the end of the day, this is a DC project. Warner owns it, but DC is the company. And he's making an establishment on that with this movie alone. And it's good he's doing that. Now, back to the characters and the acting sense of it. For example, with Mr. Cornsweet, I have not been familiar with his work. Other than the fact that the last two projects I knew he was in, I believe was Top Gun Maverick and Twisters. In fact, Twisters, when they were filming it, it was announced, they had found out that he had gotten the callback to be casted officially as Superman. And his castmates from Twisters celebrated, which was kind of awesome. They were the first to find out he was going to officially play Superman. But I'm going to tell you, and I watched, and if there's any interview out of all the interviews that I have seen from most of the cast and crew, the one I will tell you that I personally think is one that you should really watch. Because, listen, I'm not taking away from any of the other interviewers and press over the last several weeks when it comes to this character. I'm not taking away from that. But there is one interview that I stated. Once I watched it, I said, "Oh, this is my favorite interview ever. My favorite interview ever." Because when I saw it, in my head of it, when the moment I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this is perfect. I like this. This is really really good." So, trying to find the video here. But if I had to pick one interview that was my favorite of all the interviews for Cornsweet when it comes to Superman, if I can find it, it is obviously the one from Good Morning America. Now, there's one from Good Morning America where Cornsweet is interviewed by, trying to find it. Give me a second. I have to go through most of my retweets and stuff. um, um, uh, there's one, if I can find it. Uh, so There's an interview from Good Morning America that Corm Sweet does with Will Reed. Will Reed is not only a broadcaster for Good Morning America, but he also is the son of Christopher Reeve, the original 1970s Superman actor. It's a lovely interview. And Corn Sweet, just like Tyler Hoechlin, who played Superman and Lois and in the Arrowverse, both went in the same case of, oh, I know who Superman is, but I was never a big fan of or much of a knowledgeable to Superman. Now, I'm not saying that every actor has to do that, but there are moments where that actor encapsulates the character more when they don't have much knowledge of the character in the deep lore of it compared to most of the actors who have the knowledge of the character. It happens. And Corn Sweet's interview with Will, I love the fact he encapsulates the fact, like I'm just doing pretty much what your father would have considered doing. And I love that interview. I think it's a really good interview. If you ever get a chance to watch it on YouTube, watch that interview. It's really, really good. I love that interview. My favorite interview, I think, ever of all the interviews that Corn Sweet has done with the character, with this movie. That's my favorite interview ever. And it will probably forever will be. Nothing away from all the other interviews that they have done over the years of with this movie, with every other cast member. It's just, yeah. But yeah, when it comes to what Corn Sweet does with it. Now, also, the fact of Superman and Clark, I haven't seen this sort of thing. A lot of people, including my roommate and I, have both agreed when it comes to the some of the actors who play the difference between Clark's mannerisms and Superman's mannerisms. That takes me back to what David Carradine said years ago when it came to the Superman philosophy that is valid in Kill Bill. And if you have not seen Kill Bill, you definitely should watch Kill Bill, first of all. But second of all, you probably know that. In the scene where Uma Thurman's Beatrice is poisoned and paralyzed, and David Carradine is talking to her about the Superman philosophy of the fact that Clark is Superman was born Superman. Clark Kent is just a disguise. It's what he encapsulates of what he thinks humans are like on Earth. He wasn't born Clark Kent. That establishment of a situation is so true to the point where you see the parallel differences in the movie. And the specific one that I can bring up, honestly, is the scene where Rachel Bronson and Corn Sweet's Lois and Superman are doing the infamous interview scene, where he's sitting down with her after he says, yeah, I'll do an interview with you. And she's like, and then she starts digging into him about certain politics and situations that happen within the inspiring of the movie. And he goes to a point where he's stressing out, thinking that she's conflicting with him on a sense, and not understanding what his purpose is and what he's doing. That scene alone is a lot more longer than it shows in the movie trailer, obviously, but there's so much that's in it that's such a good point. And that's why, again, what Panda Red says is absolutely true in the fact of like, oh, this is vulnerability. We don't see that in him. Nothing against Cavill, but there was never a moment where we saw Cavill's vulnerability. It's the one thing about Cavill. We never saw that vulnerability. We see that in Corn Sweets. And honestly, I'm so glad we do. I'm so glad we do. So Corn Sweet's performance is uncanny to Reeves in a sense. I understood it. I understood it completely. So I'm glad to see that. When it comes to Rachel Bronson's, my only knowledge of her work was obviously Miss Maisel, which was not a bad show. But to see her do this Lois Lane, this is actually, I honestly will have to admit, this is a Lois. Her Lois is actually more natural of a Lois than I've ever seen. I didn't think it was that possible, but I loved it. I loved it. I did. But there are three other characters in this movie that I will say. Three characters and with the actors' performances that I will talk about in this movie. Because because, for good context, in the sense of, I'm kind of shocked on the fact of when it comes to uh, their performances, like I it it really shocks the sense of it. Uh, so the first person I'm going to have to talk about is Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor. I have to bring that up on the sense of it. Um, Let me just say this: anybody who thinks that I hate Superman, it's not even on the same level as the infurious rage that this Luthor is. I'm gonna tell you that right now in this movie, and I'm gonna say right now, Nicholas, I may not like your Hank McCoy, but I damn love your Luthor. You're right up there with Spacey's performance of Luthor. Obviously, it's good that you got to talk to Rosenbaum on his podcast about his Luthor being sort of your introduction to Luthor, because you're just as good as his. But take away the friendship quality sense that happened in Smallville with Rosenbaum's Luthor. Again, you may not have been my good Hank McCoy, but you are my favorite Luthor, officially. You are. This man does the absolute most sadistic encapsulation of his knowledge and his powers tactics to make Superman the most miserable and hated person in the world. I never would have ever saw anybody to go so much as there's more Lutheran coldness from this version of Luthor than any version of Luthor I've ever seen, next to Hackman's. Hackman's, honestly, to some extent, I will give Hackman some credential. Spacey is still top, but Rosenbaum was the only one that's close to it. We're not going to talk about Eisenberg. Eisenberg did what he did. But this Luthor, Nicholas's Luthor, oh my God. Like, I tell people before, like, listen, I may not like Superman, but I am not on the levels of this man not liking Superman, because Jesus, like, if Luthor was a real person, like, I swear to you, he would probably, he wouldn't vote for Trump, but he would basically give money to Trump's donation to his political campaign. Because, oh my God, like, it is absolutely, like, I've had many moments where I'm just like, you know what, Luthor, I get what you say in a sense, where there's moments of it. There's nothing about this Luthor that's in any understanding sense of it. Like, this is a Luthor you really want to hate. Nicholas did an incredible good job with this, because I'm like, okay, you know what, like, you're a Luthor that I would despise so much. Like, any of us in this world will probably want to punch you in the face of it. Like, nothing made me more satisfied. So there's a particular scene leading to the end of the movie where something happens to Luthor, and it is the most hilarious moment. And at one point, people are cheering when it happens. It's a situation that's a little bit uncomfortable, but like a little bit unfortunate. But it's hilarious to an extent where it's like, you know what? Yeah, bravo. Yeah, 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 you deserve that, Luthor. You deserve it. And it is the most complex, it's not complex, but the most simplistic of a hilarious moment of it that like, not one person was not laughing. And not one person was not laughing in the audience when I went to see this screening. So, yeah, I gotta give Nicholas his props on that. Like, you won me over with Luthor. You really have. Another person that I want to talk about that many people don't talk about, um, and it's a character that is, um, I'm intrigued into. So there's a character that I was confused about when I first saw him on screen in the Superman trailer, but I didn't know who he was. until I had to look up and realize when I saw other pictures of him that I realized who he was. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, now I see who it is. Yeah, that makes complete sense now. So the next person I'm going to talk about is a character that many people I don't think knew about, but it's semi spoiler, and it is a character named Metamorpho. So Metamorpho is in the Superman movie, and he's played by an actor named Anthony Carrion. Now, if you have ever seen Barry, you probably know who Anthony is. Anthony from Barry is in this, but a lot of people forget this. He also was on Gotham, another DC project. And I didn't see much range in him in that movie, that show, compared to Barry, which he was hilarious in. I don't know if that was their intent to make him likable, but he sort of won me over. I liked his character now, and I hope we get to see more of him in the DC universe in general. My knowledge of the character, however, I'm very familiar because his character was also at one point part of Justice League and the Outsiders. And the Outsiders, of course, connects to Batman. He is not a shapeshifter like most shapeshifters you expect. So his character is a little bit complex of his abilities. But I love the fact that he gets put into this movie in ways that I didn't expect it to happen. And I think Anthony did a good job for it. Because this character, like, you first think of a character as a threat. They made him look like he was a threat in the movie, but it turns out he's not. And I like that he's in this character. This is one of the rare moments that, and I'm also going to put, and the reason why I'm also bringing him up also is because this is a James Gunn situation here. And let me explain why. One thing I love about James that he has done since Marvel is he's willing to take characters from other properties that no one has ever seen or heard of and bring them into the limelight. The perfect example of this is the Guardians of the Galaxy. No one had any info on the lore of the Guardians until James Gunn did the movies. Let's make it clear. When you think of X-Men, when you think of the Avengers, the core Avengers, when you think of any of the other Marvel superheroes, Iron Man, Spider-Man, they're well established, known through our country and throughout the world. Guardians was a property of Marvel that no one really ever thought was a big thing of it. Because, I mean, look at it now. Since James did those movies, there's a theme park ride in Disney. They have a video. They were the only one of the few games that was well done in their own property. The music of nostalgia from their soundtrack scores were very iconic in a sense of it. Hell, you can't go anywhere without, at one point when the first movie came out, and not wanted a dancing Groot doll toy. Like, the establishment of lore now with that with those characters in that universe of Guardians has now been well established because of James Gunn. The only character out of all those characters of James Gunn from that movie that was already established, known, honestly, was to some extent Gamora, because of her connection to Thanos. Other than her, most of those other characters, many people had not been established knowing. No one knew who Star-Lord was. No one knew who Groot was. No one knew who Rocket Raccoon was. No one knew who Drax was. No one knew these characters. And I'm not talking about the heavy comic book fans. I'm talking about the people who are only familiar with certain media of Marvel, who grew up with the cartoons of the X-Men, who knew about the first, at least the first movie maybe, from Bryan Singer. Can you really ask those people if they knew who Guardians was? My roommate, who is pretty much a comic book person as well, never knew the establishment history of the Guardians. I only knew because I read the comics years ago for the Guardians. That was another reason why I loved James and his thought process and sense of it. And then he did it again with the Suicide Squad. You would think when he did the Suicide Squad, it would be the same even lineup. But no, he took it a different approach of it. And now look, now because of him, Peacemaker has become iconic now in the DC popular lore to people wanting to read more about him, to the point John Cena is set for life as long as he wears that chrome mask and attaches himself with that character. because of James Gunn. No one knew who Peacemaker was, who had knowledge of the DC in the other entertainment media lore, unless you read the comics. No one knew who Peacemaker was. Now he's the most established of a person in it. That's how big of a thing he is. Hell, the way he changed how Bloodsport looks, I'm so happy for that. That's my favorite part about that Suicide Squad. Because Bloodsport was just a guy in a red bandana. He had a suit at one point, like a silver white suit. But now, thanks to James, with that movie, he made him look cool, even for an anti-hero villain. But again, with that character and taking established characters from the lore of DC's universe and library and putting them in that movie where people never knew it unless they picked up a comic book from that world or DC, now established in that because of that movie. And that is what he did here on Superman. He took the most characters that were not well established, in the sense of it, to some extent, and put them in this movie to tie in with characters we already know. And Monomorpho is one of them. And the only reason why, again, I only knew because of my knowledge of comics. If I tell people before, like, again, as much as I love the Marvel world and I've read many of the Marvel comics in some cases, I've always been a DC person by heart. So to know that Metamorpho is going to be in this lore of DC, I'm excited for that. And I love what Anthony did with that. So that is another person that I want to give a little highlight to on that sense of it. Because it's again, he is somebody you really didn't expect to see in the DC studio universe perspective alone. And now, I take that back. I said 3 people. I take that back. 4 people. There are 4 other people that I do want to bring establishment on the sense of it. The next person I want to bring up is somebody who has already been established in the DC, technically in the DC world, but he's also been established as someone who has a history with the character lore, but also with James Gunn himself as well. And that is none other than Mr. Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. Now, if you are familiar like me, you know Nathan's history with the Green Lantern in general, the Lantern Corps in general. For the better 10 years, Nathan has contributed in most of the animated DC film projects as Hal Jordan's voice of Green Lantern. Everything from Green Lantern Final Flight to the Green Lantern to every Justice League animated project that has come out, with the exception, I think, of 3 films, animated films. He has had some involvement as Green Lantern in many of the animated adaptations of Green Lantern in animated films. Let me make that clear. Not the animated shows, the films, the animated films. Nathan's silver tongue of humor sense of it is very unique for what it is. I've known that since watching him as Malcolm Reynolds in Firefly. Now, I could have said Slither, which is where his history with Game James goes all the way back to, but that's too easy for a lot of people. I was established with Nathan, which is why I'm a rookie fan. I won't lie. So I know that. But when it comes to the humor that Hal has, that he brought into the character in the animated projects that he's contributed to for the last 10 years, I knew him being a Green Lantern would still have that capability. The switch, however, is the fact that James decided to, instead of him being Hal, a Green Lantern that's partly knownable but not much brought into the media scape other than a few projects, and that is Guy Gardner. And I like that. I like that he did that. So, the personality that Guy has, it's there. A sprinkle of Hal's humor that Nathan is known for doing when the voice work is still embodied in that version, in his performance as Guy. And I love that. I love that. And it fits like a fucking glove. So, his performance, I knew would automatically was going to be selling. The moment I found out he was going to be Guy, I was like, I'll take that. Because if it wasn't for the 10 years that Nathan has done Lantern in every animated film project of DC, it wouldn't make sense because you have to remember, while Guy is also a silver tongue guy, no different than Hal, the difference is the fact that Guy's a piece of work. Hal can do it to a point where it's like, oh, it's annoying, but I can take it because he can back it up. Guy is the one that's like, no, shut him up. Shut him up. And that's the difference, really. Bull cut aside of it. So I knew Nathan would deliver in playing Guy. I knew it. And the only reason why I feel like it was a switch on that is because it's already been established for years on the fact of Hal Jordan. And then not to mention the last person who was Hal Jordan, technically in a sense of it, in the DC films, is now our Merc with a mouth on the other side of things. And he was the only other person that actually could have done it well. Because him and Ryan both are on that same sense of it, which is why I'm surprised they have not done a project together yet. But in time, somebody's got to come up with that script sooner or later to make it happen. Because if I want Nathan and Ryan to play brothers in a project, I have to see that because both of them have that same characteristic to pull that off in a humorous sense of it. So, but yeah, like Guy is perfectly Guy in here. I would love. Now I'm putting it out there for those who don't know. Guy has had several comic books, but at one point he had a variation of a comic book series called Warrior, which was a solo series that he had done a while back on DC. And I would love for that to become the next chapter in the DC studios later down the line. Now, years ago, Guy had his own series from 92 to 96. But at one point later down the line, he ended up switching his look once he realized that his lantern, he was kicked out of the Corps, and he took on a new persona. And that persona was Warrior. And then he also cut the hair. So when it comes to his character on there, I would love to see that brought to the DC studio universe. I would love to see that. And I'm pretty sure Nathan Fillion wants that too. So maybe if things go right in the DC Studios lore, later down the line, we could get that. I would love to see that. I'm just putting that out there. But for now, with what Nathan brought to the table for Warrior, for Guy Gardner, I love that. I love that it worked. It worked so well. So I was sold immediately from the moment it was announced of his casting. Immediately. There's one other person I'm going to bring up about this character because a lot of people didn't think I would talk about this character because I'm going to be honest. So I'm going to sound like Chandler Bing if you know the episode, but as much as I like animals, I am not a dog person. There's one dog that I have given my exception to. There's one dog. The last dog that I was able to take care of was a teacup Yorkie Terrier by the name of Christian. But we called him Bubby. His nickname was Bubby. He was like a child to my mom. We loved him so much. He unfortunately ran away. We never were able to acquaint him because most of my siblings unfortunately did not watch him. So he is vanished without a trace from us. My mother was heartbroken when it happened. But he was the only dog that I said to myself, okay, I will take care of that dog to do a sense of it. Crypto might be a complete second. Now, when it comes to media pets, Wishbone's still number one. But if it comes to dogs that, like, I would say, like, if I had this dog, I would take care of the dog, Crypto's up there. A likable dog, in the sense of it, I never would have. Because, see, I'm an Ace the Bat Hound guy, just like Bruce is. But I got to tell you, this Crypto variation, this even beats out the Dwayne Rock Johnson animated version of Crypto. Because I'm just like, the Super Pets I really didn't, I'm sorry. I don't want to talk bad about the Super Pets, but I'm not going to talk about the Super Pets. That's a waste of it. This Crypto, in his highest sensibility, in his fully animated sense of it, I feel this is the best variation of a live action Crypto. I didn't think I would like this dog as much as I did in this movie, and my God, like, it takes a lot out of me to say, okay, this is the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen. This dog was that for me. And again, unless you knew my history of me not liking dogs a lot, even movie ones, that says something. I like this dog. I will not lie to you. I'm like, I will take a bullet for this dog. Okay? Even though I won't have necessary need to because the dog is probably bulletproof, but I will take a bullet for this dog. Crypto was the shiznit in this movie. And the fact that this dog is based on James's real life pet dog is what makes this even more adorable. So this dog, like, I didn't think this dog would be just as adorable as he is, but he is. I love it. I love it. That was the shocker for me with this dog, because again, in the case of this movie, when it comes to pet dogs, in a sense of it, and Crypto particularly, I just wasn't me. In that sense of it, because I was just like, okay, yeah, I expect him to be in here. He's just going to be hanging and dueling around like he usually is, but I just wasn't my thing of it. So that's what it was for me. And now I'm going to talk about the last character in this movie, because it's the most important one for me. And most of y'all should know who I'm going to talk about, because a lot of y'all should know who that is of it. And we're going to talk about it. So we all know the history of Eddie Guthie's last superhero performance was in X-Men First Class, which that character was incredible, but unfortunately, with what they did with that script and what Matthew Vaughn did with that script was a terrible mess. It was understandable script-wise of what was reason, but it was unnecessary regardless. And a lot of people, like myself, felt it was just out of place because he was the only black hero in the movie. Let's just say he gets his redemption of now going to be a character that is memorable a lot more in the DC studio universe of it. And it's such a good thing. The last person I knew who played... I'm gonna try to bring this up to some cases. Let me speak my piece on this to testify for a minute, because I'm gonna tell you right now, I've known about Mr. Terrific. My introduction to Mr. Terrific was like most people in the later '90s in Justice League Unlimited. I won't lie. The animated series introduced me to Mr. Terrific. I did a deep dive of the character once I found out about the character in that show. And once I did, I said to myself, I'm surprised this character doesn't get a lot of much attention. He's just like, in a sense, with Cyborg, a character that doesn't get a lot of attention of the culture sense. And it's not a character that's rooted from Dwayne McDuffie or Milestone, which is a rare thing, because him, Vixen, John Stewart's Green Lantern, and Cyborg are the few characters that not only were not rooted from Dwayne McDuffie's development of it, but were developed early in DC in the comics lore before McDuffie was even involved in those comics. Along with Black Lightning, if I didn't mention Black Lightning already. So when it came to Mr. Terrific, I'm like, this man is on the same level as probably smarter than Reed Richards and Tony Stark combined. Like, if this was canon with Marvel, he would be a perfect person to be a mentor to Riri Williams. And you can hate all you want. Ironheart haters. Hate all you fucking want. Eddie, man. I like Coin Sweat's performance of Superman. I like Crypto in this movie. I liked Nicholas Holtz being my favorite version of Luthor. But if I had to, Gardner from Nathan Fillion was amazing, and I knew it would be from the very get-go. But if I had to pick a favorite character, Eddie, hands down. Eddie, hands down. I wish I had known about Mr. Terrific when I was younger. I really did. Because Eddie did his thing with this performance, man, and this character, and he's around the whole movie. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Do not expect to just be faintly familiar with him in this movie. Oh no, no, no. He's established, well-rounded in this character in this movie. Very well established in it. And I love that for him. I'm happy he gets this with this movie. I'm so happy for that. And I think we all of us in the black nerd community were happy too when we found this out. Like, oh, so he's not gonna die in this movie? Oh, that's fucking amazing. Oh, he's all in this movie. All in this movie. And we're happy for that. So I'm gonna not lie to you when I tell you that it was so good to see him. However, I'm going to also establish this moment because I talked about it on Threads. So there is an actor who worked with Eddie, I believe, and he's good friends with Eddie. And they made us. They said something on the sense of it. If I can pull it up on Threads, because I found out about it years ago. Months ago, on Threads, I believe there was an actor who I'm familiar with. I can't remember his name, but I have to bring it up because he's on here. Give me a second. It's in my Threads somewhere. I got to look through my Threads. But months ago, he had said something about the fact of somebody who was mentioned about both the only two actors who I believe have played live action interpretations of Mr. Terrific. There were only two actors, I believe, that have ever played Mr. Terrific, and Eddie was one of them. Eddie is one of them. Eddie is the first film actor, the first actor to play him in film, and there was one other actor who also played Eddie. I mean, who also played Mr. Terrific, and that is Echo Kellum from the Arrowverse. Now, his performance of Mr. Terrific was changed to some perspective because here it is. So the actor Malcolm Barrett. Now I know about Malcolm Barrett because he has done a couple of live action and comedy sketches and online stuff. So in his video is he post, as you can see here on the video version, is my flex is I know both live action Mr. Terrifics in real life. Echo Kellum, who plays him in Arrowverse, and of course Eddie, who plays him in Superman. In the comments of Malcolm's post are so many homophobic comments from people stating, "Oh, but see, Eddie's performance isn't gay. If his character is gay, then it's over with this superhero. I don't like Echo's version because his character was gay." The homophobic shit is so bad. And then also, both of Mr. Terrifics have different names. But it is established that some people want to say it's established they're related, and some want to establish, since it's an alternate universe, it's a change of it. And as you can see in the video version of my post of it, I said, dudes in the comments saying Echo's Terrific is an imposter because of his sexuality is bullshit. They are both incredible, Mr. Terrific, in my eyes, and I will hear no fucking slander on either of them. In which Malcolm replies and says, samesies, which I love that he does that. And I 100% stand on that. Eddie and Echo both did a great job in playing Mr. Terrific in their continuities. They did both an incredible job. I will say, however, Eddie's, I will say, is a little better only because of how much there are moments his character is just like, are you like he's the voice of normal reason when it comes to most of the thought processes and conversations with most of the characters in this movie. I will say that. The one thing I will say though, Echo has a lot of humor in his stuff and references in his stuff. That's the one thing I will say about Echo's performance of Mr. Terrific, which is awesome. But Eddie's performance of it, it's just like, man, are you serious? Like, what the hell? Like, there's some moments where him and Rachel Bosnian's Lois are involved together in certain scenes, and he's looking at her like, white girl, are you crazy? Like, it is so freaking hilarious. I love it so much. I love it so much. The detail of the technology that he involves himself into this. He has a fucking ship. It's one thing I wish Echo's character would have had, but it's understandable because of budget reasons for the filming of the show. But Eddie's Terrific has a ship that's amazing. Uh, like there's a whole fight scene in the sense of it where you ain't gonna see him like ducking it out, but there's like moments where he's just like twist the hands of cybernetic and technology of the orbs that he has and such, just all around badass. And then the smartness that he's like, I'm putting this thing together. Like, you can't do that. I'm smarter than you. There's a scene in the movie where this guy who works for Luther is like, I can help you with this. And he's like, I don't need your help. I'm Mr. Terrific. And he literally says that. And I'm just like, man, you just I love the fact of his intellect, his skill ability with his technology and stuff of it, but he still brings a little bit of that edginess, swagger in him, and I love that about Eddie's performance in this. I love that with his performance character. I am so glad that this happening now. From what I hear, by the time I can pull this up, apparently James is looking to maybe spin off two of the characters in Superman with their own projects. Mr. Terrific is being one of them. And if that greenlets happen, listen, black nerds, we need to assemble automatically for this. Because this is going to be a rare moment where we get a DC studio property from James Gunn that's going to also involve a black superhero in their films and a black intelligent superhero, no less. We got to ride for this guy. We didn't do it hard enough with Black Lightning when Guggenheim and Jennifer Lentz put him out there, which I'm hoping they will do casting for him soon because I really want Black Lightning to be in the DC studio soon, in the DC studio universe. If it was a perfect world, I would love them to recast Cress Williams back because Cress did an amazing job on the show, which I may want to do a deep dive on that show sometime when I have the whole series fully collected. Because as of right now, I have the first two seasons. I need to get the rest, the fourth and fifth, the third, fourth, and fifth seasons. But when it comes to Cress's performance in the show, he incredible job as Jefferson. Incredible job as Jefferson. You're gonna have to pull a big freaking name to pull off for him to be on that same level if you do bring him into the DC studio universe. But if not, I'm fine with whoever you picked on the new lens of it. But he's got to come as hard as Cress. He's got to, because I think Cress did an amazing job. So it's hard to top that. But if Eddie's Terrific gets his own show, absolutely sign me the fuck up. I'm automatically in. Sign me the fuck up, James Gunn. I am absolutely for that. No warrant. Absolutely. The other character is Jimmy Olsen, who was the lackluster to some extent in this movie, but there's still grounding. Now, here's the thing that I don't think anybody has taken into consideration when it comes to the characters, because we're going to go off this situation now that I've established with all the favorite characters. One of the things I feel like hopefully this movie will encapsulate, because obviously they'll be back in a sequel or two, and maybe in another DC property, another DC movie studios movie. I hope we get more opportunity with these people to establish in these characters in their other projects. If Jimmy has to go off and be on an episode of Peacemaker to establish who he is in the sense of it, so be it. If we get Jimmy to make an appearance in a Mr. Terrific show to establish in that sense of it, so be it. That's all I ask for. Because both him and Cat Grant don't really get a lot of screen time. Now, Cat Grant, who is a vital character in the DC world, because a lot of people don't know this, but Cat Grant, I personally feel like, was the only undermined in this movie. Because she, there's not much of her. There's not much of her. And I understand to some extent of it. So the actress who plays Cat Grant in this movie, funny enough, is also going to be playing our Tony, the voice of Tony Chopper. That's the funny thing about it. So that's the funny thing. Michaela Hoover, that's her name. If I can pull up her on the screen here. So Michaela Hoover is our Cat Grant in this movie. She doesn't have a lot of scenes in this. I'm just going to make that aware now because Kat is more of the establishment for Daily Planet of like I'm trying to think um, broadcasting sense of it on the more entertainment side, tabloid side of it. There is some version of her in the comic books where it's more like the tabloid news, extra access Hollywood versions of her. Then there are some of her where it's like actual news establishment. We don't know that from her in this movie. We don't get to see that. And it's the one thing I hope in either sequels or in other DC properties that we'll see later down the line in the future, we'll get to see more of that establishment later in. If anything, I'm hoping, I'm guessing, I know that she'll probably understand that because of the fact of what was in this movie, but I hope that we get to establish more of that later in the DC universe. Um, I know during the death of Superman, which I'm scared if they ever touch that, Kat was a very vital part of that establishment in that story arc. So I hope we get to see more of Kat. I will say it's a little off-putting for Michaela being a woman who, let's just obviously you can tell she's not a woman of she's a woman of color, which I will say I do like that because there have been several variations of Cat Grant who are women of color. She with the wig with the blonde hair is a little bit off-putting because obviously that's a wig. So I don't know if they did it intentionally of how boom she looks in that or if it was just for the character sense of it. But all I know is for Cat Grant. Like the only other variation of Cat Grant that I will say that was very unique of what it was, obviously, is Callista Flockhart's performance of Cat Grant in the Supergirl TV series. So that's the thing of it. So it could go even that way. It could go the same way as Callista's performance. We don't know. We don't have that full establishment except one scene where she's in a conversation with Lois, and we don't even hear much of that conversation due to a certain scenario that happens in the movie. Um, I would like to have more of that of her. So hopefully we'll get that in the next establishment in the DC universe. But yeah, her and Jimmy are the only people I know in the sense of it. We don't get that sense of it. There are a few others in the movie that's the same way too. But right now when it comes to Cat, like I said, we don't get much of that in this film particularly. Jimmy more than Cat. Um, um, there is some character. There is one character I will say that I do like what they did with her in this movie, which at first I was a little bit cringy over, but I understand the reason why her character is in this, but it makes sense in that kinds of it. It's because with every version of her is that same type of personality, but they kind of changed her in the sense of it. So in this movie, I found out who it is. At first, when I saw the trailer, I was like, is that Cat Grant? No, it's Eve Techmaster, who is canon in the comics. In fact, she has been played a couple of times in many variations of Superman projects as well. She is in Supergirl. She had more of an establishment connection with Maxwell Lord and, of course, with Lena Luthor. She has, and also I believe with another character in the Supergirl universe, in Supergirl. She was established in the Donner movies as well. So Eva is a character. They kind of make her more of a socialite of a character in this movie compared to the other variations. And I'm fine with that. The only thing that was a little off-putting was the fact of her connection with Jimmy. And that's all I'm going to talk about for that. Because again, trying not to spoil much. So that was a character that was just, oh, that's different from me. I wasn't expecting the sense of it. So, yeah. But yeah, she has been in every, what's it called? Variation. She has been in most of the variations. Like I said, she was in the early Superman movies. And then the new actress played her. So, it didn't take me to realize it, but she's different on this one compared to the other one. Eve Marie Saint was the actress who played her in the early Superman movie. I do know that. I think only one version of her, but yeah, yeah, Tessamacher to Eva Tessamacher was a character I wasn't expecting to just be like, oh, okay, didn't know she was going to be in this movie, but I'll take that. But they made her in a humorous perspective of it. I'll take it. I'll take it. Oh man. Um, and then obviously they have her connected with Luther, so that's the case of it. Um, but yeah, I believe, yeah, Tessmacher has been variated many times in many of the Superman movies. There is, but I will say one thing: at least she's not Kitty Kowalski. At least she's not Kitty Kowalski. And if you need to know who that is the character that Parker Posey plays in the Bryan Singer Superman Returns movie. She's the replacement for Eva Tessmacher in Superman Returns. So instead of getting Eve Tessmacher, they get Catherine Kowalski instead. And that's when that movie was just like, oh no, oh no. I will say, out of all the Tessamachers, though, the best one personally for me that has been established in the Superman or Supergirl universe, obviously is Andrea Brooks from the Supergirl series, because her character starts out as someone who's working at Luthor Corps and then grows to somebody else in the sense of it, like a villainous. Then at one point she's on the case of it, she's working with Luthor and Lex, of course. Her connection with Lex Luthor and such, and then everything else stretching out from that. So I will say, they give her more of a stretch in the Supergirl TV series than they've done in any other versions. So I will say, if I had to pick my favorite Eve Tessmacher, Andrea Brooks' version, hands down. But I will say, the actress who plays her in the Superman in this Superman movie, Sarah Sampaio, didn't do a bad job. Like the humorous of how ditzy she is entertaining. It makes up for the whole humor sense of it. Um, Now there's another character I do also want to bring up. I almost forgot about her. I almost forgot about her. I can't believe I almost forgot about her. I gotta give a shout out because whenever we get somebody, let me make this clear. Um, Other than the Avengers, most of this movie was filmed here in Ohio. So when it comes to us getting some of some Ohio natives in this movie, it's a very rare thing of a sense of it. And I let me just say this, man. She went from Dora the Explorer, the first actress to playing Dora the Explorer, to playing Arthanagarian. I want to send a shout out to Isabella Merced, Cleveland's own. She she was awesome. She was awesome as Hawk Girl. I loved her Hawk Girl. But I'm not going to lie to you, like it wasn't until I found out when she first got casted that she was an Ohio native. Because I found out right in the midst of after she had done the HBO Max series she had did a while back, and that's when I found out. I think it was something Turtles, that Turtle show, and I was like, "Oh, she's Cleveland." So when I found out about her, I'm like, "Oh, we get one of our Ohio natives here. It's a rare moment on that." So yeah, Isabella, girl, you were cool as hell. I hope we get a Hawk Girl movie, or I hope there's a Hawkman movie down the line where we get to see more on her. In that sense of it, I hope we do. I hope we do. She was great for what she was given, more as much as Edie and Nathan for Guy and Mr. Terrific. So I think she did great. Um, Justice Gang, which is hilarious. Um, I will say, um, I only wish. So one rare moment I'm going to say this of another casting other than Cress Williams with Black Lightning. I only wish that my boy Adonis Hodge could come back as Hawkman to pair with her in this. I really do. I said to people before, the only good quality about Black Adam for me was his performance as Hawkman. Aldous Hodge's Hawkman was literally the only reason why I wanted to see Black Adam. I didn't want to see it because of Dwayne Johnson. I didn't want to see it because of Doctor Fate from Pierce Bronson, because I knew he wasn't going to be in the suit. It was going to be CGI for most of it. I didn't want to see any other reason on that other than Hawkman from Aldous Hodge. That's who I wanted to see. I only wish James could bring him back to play Hawkman, so him and Isabella could work together, because I need that. I need that. But I will say, it's awesome. Isabella as Hawkgirl in this movie. She was great. Cleveland's own. So, I don't even I don't even express anymore on that. All I can say is just she was awesome. She was badass. I hope we get more of her, either outside of the Superman movies or outside or in some continuity in the DC universe. I really want more of Hawkgirl, because a lot of people forget in the comics lore, Thanagarians are not of human or of are descendants to some extent Egyptian wise of it. So I would love that lore to still be in the connection of it, because certain continuities of Thanagarians are related to Egyptian lore in the sense of the Earth in the comic books. They did that in the Justice League animated series and Unlimited series. I don't remember if they did it in the Arrowverse, but I do know some extent of that. Um, so I remember Panda Red said something about how the lighting is in this movie. You know how, like, with certain ways things are filmed in a sense of it. He says that, like, the lighting in that case of it, that is true. I will say, but it makes up for good on that sometimes when it's necessary. Like the scene where that was revealed of Superman healing himself with the sun rays, and how he was healing himself with the suit after when we first see him. Because actually, and I'm just only gonna spoil this, the clip that they show with him out there in the snow and Crypto taking him back to the Fortress of Solitude, that's literally the beginning of the movie. That's literally the beginning of the movie, and that's the only part I will reveal. That whole moment was with lighting necessary in it. I love that. I love that. Also, James, James, it's fine. We know you put your wife in the movie with a cameo. We expected that. We expected that. Besides, I'm looking forward to seeing her kick ass again on Peacemaker. It's not every day that you, as a filmmaker and a director, can make your wife, an actress, look like a hot badass. It's not every day you can do that. Certain directors can do that with their wives. James Gunn can do that with his wife, Vanessa Holland. So, with Jennifer Holland. So, it's hilarious. But she's not like that in Supergirl and Superman. I will say that. I will say the two cameos appearances in this movie that I won't spoil, awesome. So looking forward to it. Hopefully the next films that we know that comes out from the DC Studioverse will connect with those as well, but we already know that. So definitely setting up for the next few movies that are coming out, including Supergirl. So I'm looking forward to those with those continuities of those characters. So I'm looking forward to that. So it's kind of awesome for that. But the lighting makes complete sense. The only dark moment in this movie, I honestly will say, is one scene of a confrontation between Superman and Lex Luthor. It's a very dark scene. It's understandable of that dark scene, but that's the only thing that I will say about it, compared to most of the other movies where, like The Man of Steel, where there's a lot of dark moments. So I will say, when you see that movie, when you see the movie, just know there is going to be a moment where that movie has a lot of dark moments in that sense of it. But it's, again, not encapsulating everything of the moment of taking away the brightness and the complex of the brightness that is necessary in the Superman movies. So keep that in mind. I've said a lot of positivities in this movie, and I won't say the faults. I've only said one fault, and that's some of the characters. The one fault I will say is within the story, it involves a little political perspective situations. It's understandable because it helps with the angle of what Superman or Clark is trying to encapsulate of who he is. That ends up in the sense of it. But there's a reason why that situation he's getting involved in because he finds out it turns out it has something to do connecting with Luther. That's the only thing I wish they would have made more broader or easier to explain in this movie. It's the only continuity I believe that was I wish would have had, because when it came to the story in the sense of that movie, that was the one thing that was confusing for me. And I don't know if it's because my knowledge of geography is terrible or not, but I think they were not legit countries or something of the sense of it. The geography that was used in this, geology that was used in this, I don't think it was legit or not. I don't know. Maybe people can tell me. It was the one thing I understand its use for it. I understand the political sense of it. I understand for the story sense of it. It's just I wish they would have more better detail in that sense of it. But I understand what it was necessary. Um, a character that was also in this movie, they kind of alternatively change, because when I first saw the character in the trailer, I didn't. I was thinking of it from a different perspective, and then I end up seeing that they changed it to something else, and it's a vital character that Superman deals with, that Superman is interactive with, and it's the one thing that, because I've read the comics that dealt with that character a lot of times, it's the one thing I wish they would have changed in the sense of it. But I understand why they did. That's my only qualm with one of the characters in this movie, was they changed really drastically one of the characters, and I'm just like, that's not how they were in the comics. And in the animated films that they were in, they weren't like that either. But I guess there's a reason for that, and with how that character, the character's fate in the end, I hope it turns into something that later down the line will be useful of it, depending on its existence in the later continuities of the comics. So I don't know, because we don't know much of the character's fate or what happens to that character in the movie in detail. Um, but I will say there is a character that's in the movie that I will say that, like, it kind of confused me a sense of it. I'm like, okay, is this character this character? Is he what I think they are? Are they? And they're like, uh, and it's, but it's understandable why. It's understandable why. It's my only qualm sense of it. And then there's a character who was made it look as if they were marketing they were fully in this movie, but they weren't even all even in the movie. They were literally in one scene. And I'm just like, oh, okay, so that character's there. At least we know that character's there. But I was expecting them to be fully in the movie, but nope, they're not. I don't know why. I don't know why, but okay, at least we know they're there. I do know they will have some involvement in Peacemaker season 2, so at least we have that. At least we have that. Um, but yeah, the two cameos that are in this movie, um, I'm guessing that can't that small part of it. But like I said, the reason why I'm not saying the other character who's going to be involved in Peacemaker, who is in this movie, I'm not saying they're a cameo because of the fact that they were made as if they were going to be an established character in the comic, in the movie, fully. But I guess they were a cameo too. But there is two cameos in this movie. Obviously, they're going to have a vital part of it, and they're two different characters. They're already established, but they're going to lead into, of course, later down in the movie. But it was really refreshing to see them in this movie. So I love that, and not too much time, not too much over it, just knowing the connection of it, just establishing on that sense of it, and I'm just like, okay, we know they're there, but we won't be able to see them until later. So, but yeah, it's kind of awesome on that. Also, I will say, Frank Grillo as Rick Flag Sr. Obviously, his character is in this movie. I hope he has Rick Flag Sr. being on there longer in that. Since we lost Rick Flag Jr. to Suicide Squad, I hope we get this Rick Flag a lot longer in the DC continuity. Because I'm pretty sure Grillo had the same probably situation as Edie, because Grillo played Crossbones in the MCU, and his character was only established in two movies, Winter Soldier and Civil War, both Captain America movies. But his character died, obviously, in Civil War. I hope his Rick Flag in the DC continuity is a little longer. I would love for Rick Flag to have a lot more moments in this movie universe, or even in a show universe, compared to what happened to Rick Flag Jr. in Suicide Squad. I hope he does. And compared to Grillo's involvement in the MCU, because I know Grillo is incredibly floored on the fact of it. And by the way, before John Berthal came into the picture, I actually felt that Grillo would have been a perfect Frank Castle. I honestly felt that. I'm not mad at it. I mean, I'm happy that John is embracing Frank Castle for what it is and its purpose. But I'm gonna be honest. My first thought for when they were thinking about doing a Punisher show or bringing a Punisher into the Daredevil second season of the first series, Grillo came to my head before they got him in Captain America. Because I was like, Grillo as him would have been a better pick, but it's understandable. I'm trying to think of what deeming qualities what subtractive or cons of this movie I can think of in the sense of it, other than that one political situation and in a cameo. Because I really want to try to find some situations in this movie that I want to say of it, but it's hard for me to do because of the fact that with some of the changes they made in this movie and with some of the characters and stuff in this movie, not too much of it, that it still was entertaining a sense of it. Of course, there are post-credits scenes, two of them. There's a brief moment in one, and then there's a second one that was a little bit of a funny moment, which is kind of hilarious. But other than that, yeah. I will say, the one thing that capped off the awesomeness. Now, I want to bring this up for me, and I hope James Gunn sees this. I hope James Gunn sees this because I have to ask this question. There is a punk band that is a fictional band in Superman. There's a punk band that is fake in the Superman movie. They're not real. They're not a real punk band. And okay, so the trailer and the scene. There's a scene in the movie where Superman talks about, is Superman punk rock? And here's the thing. First of all, I'm happy for the band. I'm glad the band I believe it's Teddy Bears and with Iggy Pop. Yeah, it's a song from Teddy Bears and Iggy Pop called Punk Rocker. That's in the end of the movie. First of all, whoever James, you're a fucking man for that. Not many people know about Teddy Bears. That is the most punk thing you can do is put that song on there. So I'm glad for that. And I already know Iggy's probably just surprised, like, wait, what? That's in the movie? I'm actually crazy. And if I'm correct, it seems like Iggy's like, the track had soul, like so. So yes, he's cool with it. The song that I thought they were going to put in this movie is Goldfinger's Superman. That's the song I was expecting them to use. Because I'm like, the moment they brought up punk rock, I'm like, they're going to use Goldfinger, aren't they? Which is not a bad song. Superman by Goldfinger is not a bad song. But I was so expecting that. But I think that's the reason why James didn't use it is because he was expecting people to think, oh, yeah, we're Superman by Goldfinger is punk rock, obviously. And I'm like, yeah, I can see why he didn't use it. I can see why. So, I mean, I understand. I understand. But it still would have been awesome for them being that. So there is a fake band in the movie, and I believe it's a fake band because it's one of the posters that Clark has in his room when we see his bedroom for a brief moment. I'm gonna be honest. They have a song that's a real composed song that's on the movie that's in the end credits. If that's one of their songs, James, can we make that band legit? Because that song is fucking awesome. That song is fucking awesome. I love that song. So I petition for that song to yeah. I That's funny. I would love that song. I would love that song to be the real band of it. So, like, if that's what's it called? Um, However, it is cheesy as hell that this one scene where he basically says, like, you think everyone and everything is beautiful, Lois says, and Superman says, maybe that's the real punk rock. James, you basically wrote maybe the punk rock is the friends we made along the way line. That's literally what it is. That's literally what that line is. It's maybe punk rock is the friends we made along the way. That's literally what you wrote in that. So, however, there was somebody who made this thread post saying Superman movie I watched really said no one is an alien, everyone is a human, billionaires are evil, war is created, journalism is important, superheroes are hope, empathy is superpower, and being soft-hearted is a punk rock. Mm, mm, iffy on that one because it made it sound like she was. And then of course, Corn Sweat mentions about his punk knowledge, such as POD being one of the many bands he listens to, which I'm cool with that. I'm okay with that. So, um, but yeah, I'm trying to look up the soundtrack for Superman because I really want to know if that's one of the songs on here. If one of the songs is on here. Ah, the Mighty Crabjoys. So that is a band that's not legit. The Mighty Crabjoys is not a real band. It's a big band that Superman listens to when he was a fan. In fact, there's a poster of it. I'm gonna be honest with you. That song, the theme song, is not a bad fucking song. I really think they need to make that a real band, or at least do more songs with that as a real band. That's not a bad song. I think that's a good song. So that was the song I was thinking. That was the band I was thinking. I could not remember their name for the life of us. So, but yeah, uh, yeah. But one scene encapsulates the best moment in the movie that I feel makes this movie just ties it in a nice little bow in the best way possible. That I feel that everyone and it's one scene. It's a small little scene that they show in the video. Uh, and I know they showed it in the trailer, but I also know that they showed it on line too. Um, Let me try to pull up that picture. It's a picture from this scene. It's one moment in the scene that I want to say that encapsulates the end of this movie in the best way possible. And it's this scene where Superman and Lois go to a little shopping area privately, and they have an embracing, kissing moment while she's in the air. That solidified by that moment when that scene shows up. I'm like, okay, that's it. This movie wins. This Superman movie wins. This Superman movie wins it for me, hands down, hands down. Nothing else matters. This movie wins it for me. I, I'm sold. I'm sold. I love that moment of scene. Even me, while I'm Team Selena and Bruce Wayne, I even admit this scene right here is just adorable. This is not a really good picture of it, but from the top area, because the bottom, this is all AI. So ignore all that. But the top area from the lights up here, that's all from up here at least to this area, from here and here, this little square area, that's all legit. All this rest of it is AI. So it's not the best picture, but it's the one that at least encapsulates what I'm trying to express. But yeah, that scene, yeah, that moment right there, I'm just like, okay, that wins it for me. That wins it for me. Yeah, this is an AI still, because that scene right there, you can tell the image of it was AI, not even good AI. So, but yeah, that that movie, that that scene in that movie is like, okay, this is my favorite Superman movie, my favorite one. So expect me to definitely buy it. So, um, to in discussion, to wrap up the review of this, um, this is not a one and done. It's definitely, yeah. The brightness moments of it, I think James did a great job on, because, as I said before, we've had many moments where the superheroes are get edginess into it, and that's fine. But sometimes we need that brightness sense of it. It's very rare. The only people who I feel who wouldn't like this movie are the more political sense of people. If you are a person who either watches Fox News or is a diehard patriotic of a person sense of it, this is not your Superman. Stick with the Donner movies. The fact of what James did with this movie is exactly why I had said from the very beginning, the moment he was tapped to be running DC Studios, I knew this movie was going to deliver. And I am so glad I stuck with that theory from the very beginning. I knew he would deliver, and I'm so glad I was right. So glad I was right, because this movie was everything of a Superman movie I wanted it to be, of the excitement of it. And again, I was hesitant to see this in theaters because of the fact I'm like, uh, I want to support this movie, but I'm not a Superman guy. I'm not. Like Man of Steel, I really like Man of Steel, but even every once in a while, I don't want to see Man of Steel all the time, unless I'm in the mood. But this is the one where it's like, oh no, like I want this to continue. Like honestly, by the end of the movie, like I really like, if the way it felt like it was an episode of a Superman cartoon. My only wish was that I wish it had continued. I really did. I'm like, that's it, we're done. Like that's my only thing, because it felt so down to earth of it. Like even Ma and Pa can't, like how much there's more like, oh no, this is definitely the Smallville parents that he was raised by. They are more like that, and it's not against all the other actors who have played Ma and Pa Kent, but this Ma and Pa Kent casting they casted was more natural fitting in the sense of that. I love that. I love that. Um, there's a lot of situations of this movie that, like I said, that was going to upset some people in the political sense of it. But like I said, what led me to do this movie was the fact of, like I said, the moment James Gunn said that this movie made Superman an immigrant and goes off of that to encapsulate of what he is, his purpose, and what he stands for, and what he wants to be, of a representation of that, and uh, his objective in existence encapsulates everything that I wanted Superman to have been for the last 20 something years. And it's nothing to take away from the other movies. Again, nothing to take away from the Donner films, nothing to take away from what Zack Snyder did. But I honestly wanted this Superman to have that moment, and a moment of it. And the moment that Panda Red said that he was just a dude in that scene with the interview, and I saw it too, I was like, he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. And yeah, I could not be more happy with this movie. I could not be more happy. So, if anything, I'm going to tell you this now. If you're not a Superman fan like myself, you want to see, and you are intrigued for this movie, the optimum of it, because it's a superhero movie and it's a DC superhero movie, you need to see this movie. If you are a Superman fan and you voted in the right direction of things too in politics, you definitely need to see this movie. If you have no familiarity to Superman and you want to see this, and you want to see about how it lines up, you definitely need to see this movie. I cannot stress how much this movie was such a good movie. And like I said, and even me, a person who has always and still will be a fan of The Dark Knight, it's this movie that I will say, you know what? There have been many qualities and moments that I've seen Superman do good in what they were in the comic books to some extent, even though I'm not a fan. But I can honestly say I can make exceptions of how much I like these. And when it comes to the medium in general, I've told people before, Superman the Animated Series is an amazing series. It's not my favorite animated series, but it is an amazing series. But there are some many moments and episodes that are my favorites. When it comes to the Superman movies, I don't have a favorite Superman movie. And everybody says you have to at least have one. This is that favorite Superman movie. James Gunn's Superman is my favorite Superman movie ever, officially. This one wins me over on a landslide. It's so good. I strongly suggest that if you were let down also by Snyder and you're not like the cultists of Snyder, because let me tell you also, as someone who also was rooting for a Snyderverse to have continued, I have set sail. I have taken off the Snyder cult shirt and I have set sail. I have said this for the longest. What happened is what happens. Zack is come to terms with that, and he's doing his own thing. But at the same time, I would not be remiss if I didn't tell you that if there was any moment that Snyder was able to do something in his universe from DC at the time, I would have been excited for it. But since it never happened, that is what it is. But at the same time, the moment Gunn was given the keys to this universe to do what he wanted to with it, I had high faith for him. And I knew he wouldn't let me down, and he didn't. He did not. My only hope now is if we do have to keep the Matt Reeves Batman universe still isolated from his DC universe, I only hope that James Gunn brings something to the table different for Batman than we would expect of it. Because the only movies I know that Batman related that he has even announced at one point early on was the Brave and the Bold and then Batman and Son. Now, we have not heard anything of that because those are not in the discussion of development right now. As of right now, after this movie, Lanterns, Peacemaker Season 2, and Supergirl. Those are his priorities as of right now. The only thing he's wrapped up of priority was Creature Commandos. So it's going to be long out before we find out anything on the Gotham City end of it. And I'm going to wait with bated breath, but knowing that is happening. And I've already established this online, especially on my TikTok. Dennis Conwin, Reginald Holden, you need to get off your asses. Stop worrying about this milestone initiative that you put together and call James Gunn so you can put some shit in order for the milestone universe. Because if we have to wait almost 20 more years to get static in any of the Dakotaverse into the DC Studios universe, I'm not having it. I refuse to leave this earth not seeing a static movie or an Icon or Rocket movie or even a Blood Syndicate movie. I refuse to not leave this earth. I refuse to leave this earth and not have neither of those movies come out to property. I refuse to. Marvel's already had to do their end of it on the animated perspective when it comes to Miles Morales, and we still don't have that. I'm not going to have you do that with Virgil in this end of it. Not do this while standing on the grave of Dwayne McDuffie. You're not going to do that. Not after you had to put up a fight with Dwayne's estate to even be able to bring back Milestone. I'm not going to have you do that. So you're going to need to fix that immediately. This isn't James' priority to do that. It's yours. You own the rights to these characters through a state of Dwayne McDuffie. It is your responsibility to make Milestone what it's supposed to be, to bring it to a bigger audience compared to the side of the comics. You put in all that effort to establish the Milestone milieu of what it is with these comic books, and you have done nothing on the end of it with television and film, that you have not made the initiative to do something about it. And all James could just say is, we'll see how we can work into it and tie it into it. And yet, people, especially nerds and publishers and press of color, black people in the in the culture sense of it, have asked him about this, and he can't give an answer because neither of y'all have said a fucking thing. So I'm gonna need you both to get off your asses, call James Gunn, and get that shit sorted now. Because if we have to wait 20 to 30 years for a Static movie to even come out, let alone any of the other Milestone characters, I'm going to be very pissed. I shouldn't be waiting until I have grandkids to see Milestone Media come to film. I shouldn't have to wait that long. The reason why now we're getting Jon Stewart and Mr. Terrific in these properties now is because you guys don't own them. James had to put that in the initiative himself. He didn't have to put Mr. Terrific in this movie. He didn't have to. And I surely know he didn't have to put Jon Stewart, even if it's Lanterns. But yet, he is willing to do that to bring the diversity sense of it because those characters are more connected into line of property through DC directly. No different than Cyborg and Vixen. He could do that same thing with. And Black Lightning. You guys don't own those characters. And yet, they have done with that sense of the property with those characters what y'all haven't done at all on the Milestone end of it. At all. And it's disappointing on that. Very. And I feel bad. That's why I told everybody. I said it in a live stream. Shout out to my man Shogun. God. I even said it on his live stream. I said this to him and then another person who was online. Devil something. I forgot his name. I said this online and they didn't even think about it until I said it. And Shogun also elaborated on it too. No one has said anything about the Milestone Media sense of it other than the comics at one point of it. Nobody. And yet people are asking James as if he can do something about it, and he can't. Milestone is the direct property of that. While they are a subordinate to DC, they still own the property rights to those characters. And like I said in the video before on TikTok, the only reason Static's popularity of risingness comes in the continuity with DC is because Dwayne McDuffie. Dwayne McDuffie is the reason for that. And if Dwayne was alive, he would be calling James Gunn on the phone, pounding on his door right now, telling him, hey, I have properties from Dakotaverse that I want connecting into continuity with the DC world. How we can get this off the ground? I'm looking at ideas for a Static movie. Yet Dennis and Reginald has not done anything. And that's what pisses me off. Y'all want to make this establishment of saying we want our diversity recognized into the superheroes universe because of these characters and the iconicness of these characters in Milestone, especially when Dwayne was helping in development. Yet y'all haven't done a damn thing other than a few of the comics in their senses of it when it comes to those Milestone characters at all. Nothing. Where is it? Hell, y'all haven't even pitched a TV show. Y'all couldn't even do that yet. Yet James already has in line with 2 shows in projects. Even a show on the other end of it where Mr. Terrific is under possibility. What the hell? What in the hell? Like seriously. I have to tell people this all the time on that sense when it comes to Milestone Media on the sense of with these characters. And again, I know for a fact with Dennis Kawan and Reginald haven't said anything. And I'm just like, what's going on? Meanwhile, some of the other people who are a part of this company are doing crazier things about it. So, for example, Christopher Priest is the reason why we have a white Black Panther right now. So if y'all want to get mad at that, blame Christopher Priest. Blame him for that. But at the same freaking time, again, Dennis and Reginald, y'all need to get off your asses and do something on this. Because after, 2010 with Milestone Forever, after that, that was it. And then you did The Return in 2020. After that, what the hell? Because like right now, uh, like I said, Shadow Cabinet, uh, like Worlds Collide, Why Son of It, like nothing else other than that. But we have not had anything in media other than that, other than Young Justice and Static Shock. Because again, Dwayne was involved with Young Justice. But to be more positive in the sense of it, um, when it comes to this movie, with being the setup for the newly established DC universe, I've known it was going to be in good hands the moment Jane was involved in it, and I cannot be more secure to know that it will be in good hands because of James Gunn when it comes to this universe. And I'm excited for that. And that is the other reason why I have to definitely show my support when it comes to this movie. It's not just the fact of establishing a character that has been done in a sense that hasn't been done back to its roots. Because again, I don't think that's the. I think it's the one thing people haven't said about this movie when it comes to Superman. On some end of it, it is back to his roots of what he is, of what his character was established when it was created by Schustel. I believe one of the creators' names is. So when it comes to the uh, the establishment of DC Studios universe with this movie, I'm excited to see what's next, and I can't wait for that. Now I know when this after this movie is out, since this movie's out, and within a month later we were going to get Peacemaker. I'm looking forward to that for season 2. I'm looking forward to Supergirl, which will be coming probably next, and I know as of right now, the only show project that has been somewhat rumored announced, other than maybe the Mr. Terrific and the Jimmy Olsen shows, is Mr. Miracle. And I've already established about that. If you have not seen that video on my TikTok that I stitched with Panda Red announcing about the Mr. Miracle TV series, animated series, please go watch that. That's more established of what it is. My brother hasn't seen this movie yet, which makes him a little bit envious now because he's been a little bit upset because of that. However, again, I went neutral, hence why the shirt, the official shirt, I went neutral because, again, this isn't my favorite superhero, but there's reasons for it. But if this movie had came out around the time that I first was established about the hero, when it was in the way that I have stated before, on that whole patriotism that society has put on him, I would have made him my second favorite or maybe even my first. But that was the reason why I gravitated towards Batman, because I saw that. And then, of course, me being the alternative kid that I am, I kind of saw that on the sense of helping with the broodiness of the character for Bruce. So, but again, I don't hate the character. I am not like I don't have Lex Luthor level hate of the character. It's just he was not my favorite. I could not attach to him. But at the same time, he was entertaining to watch. He is entertaining to connect to with the versions of the media. And it's always entertaining to see him and my boy Bruce team up together. But I will always still be my first love being from the bat. But at the same time, the last son of Krypton isn't a bad character. There are some DC characters I do not like. And they're not just villains. Because as of right now, I've told y'all before, Clayface, which is a property that's being developed as of right now in the DC world, I'm not looking forward to that movie. Because he's not my favorite villain. And I don't like him at all. I think he's a terrible villain. But do I hate him more than I hate Punchline? I'll stomach Punchline before I watch a Clayface movie. I have no intention of seeing that. It's the one movie that's going to be definitely skippable. How I feel about Clayface is how most men felt about She-Hulk and and the Marvels. which both of those were good shows and movies. I like them both. But if I said about Clayface, that's how I feel. That is the level of disgust I have for that character. So I don't even want to go any detail about Clayface. Um, and not everything that Batman does or Batman lore in the sense of it that I like, because Absolute Batman. I don't even need to tell you how much I don't like Absolute Batman. Absolute Batman is not my favorite. I do not like Absolute Batman. But let me tell you this. I am excited for Immortal Legend Batman. That one, this Batman, I'm looking forward to. Right up there with since White Knight. That's been the other Batman that I'm looking forward to. So just know that will be in the line of it. And trust me, when there's some Batman news, we already know that currently the script is being submitted from Reeves for the Batman movie sequel. Trust me, I'm looking forward to that, because with the photo posting in this with Matt Santomlin, who already pitched it. So this was what he posted on the 27th of last month. The official script for the Batman Part 2, which it will be called that. So I'm already amped for this. The moment that this was put, so the script is done. And trust me when I tell y'all, you're going to hate me so much if I'm going to be on my shit when it comes to this movie, when we know the casting and when the production starts for this movie. The moment that Reeves has submitted this movie to James, and we know when the movie is going to be putting out. Because as of right now, the estimated film expectancy is next year. And let me tell you, y'all are going to hate me when I talk about this movie. Hell, I might make it a series if it comes to the point with this movie. Okay? I'm going to tell you that right freaking now. Lord have mercy. I'm excited for this. I might have to listen to Nirvana afterwards. So, but yeah. Movie, Superman, James Gunn, incredible job. You did your best. You did your greatest, James. I knew you had it in you. I believed in you from the very beginning of this. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for putting this character into a perspective that now it's likable and entertaining of it, to the point where I am enjoying this movie. I'm enjoying this character and how he is of it, and I look forward to seeing more of it. David Cornsweet, you have done the Cape proud. Even as someone who is not a big Superman fan, you have done the best job of it since Reeves and Cavill and Ruth. And even the voices of both dailies, Sam and Tim. The only person we don't care for is Dean Cain, and we all know that. Dean Cain's opinion doesn't mean shit. So you have done a good job with this, and we appreciate the hell out of you for that. Okay? Just letting you know that right now. I'm happy for that. I can be content. So with that being said, I think that's going to be it for today's episode. Thank y'all for tuning in as long as you have. Let me know if you've seen the movie and what did you think of it. At the same time, hopefully I will be back on here in another video later soon when more updates and more information is being up and more guests and such. So with that being said, thank y'all for checking out the video of it. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you think. What you didn't like of it. And make sure you guys keep it tuned as always. And till then, I will see y'all in the next episode of the House of Black podcast. As always, this is your favorite geek extraordinaire, Donnie Black, reminding you that I will see you in the next episode. Later days.